Hello again, and thank you for joining A Shark's Perspective, the podcast with subject matter experts in marketing. I am such a big fan of today's guests. Most publications recognize him as one of the top subject matter experts in marketing and one of the top influencers today. Joe Pulizzi is an entrepreneur and the founder of the Content Marketing Institute, the Content Marketing World Conference, the Orange Effect Foundation, a best-selling author, keynote speaker, and a true subject matter expert on content marketing. And on this episode, we'll discuss the spirit of an entrepreneur, storytelling and how-to content marketing, the big conference, how to monetize your content, and a great charitable cause that Joe cares a lot about. So let's tune in to the amazing Joe Pulizzi with a content shark on this episode of A Shark's Perspective. Joe, thank you so much for joining me today on A Shark's Perspective. If you would, please, for the two people on the planet who don't know who you are, tell us a little bit about your career and your background to date.
Oh, geez, I'm sure there's more than that, but
Maybe three.
thanks for Kenneth. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Geez, I've been in the publishing marketing industry now for almost 20 years. Got my start in at a company called Penton Media, a large business-to-business media company, where I stumbled upon this concept of what became content marketing.
Yeah.
Started writing books in 2007, 2008. Launched a business that became Content Marketing Institute in 2010. In 2011, we had our first big event called Content Marketing World in Cleveland, Ohio. We were hoping for 100 or 150 folks to come in. We had 660 that year. The event today is, around 4,000 or
Oh,
so
it's huge.
people that
Yeah.
come in every September to Cleveland, Ohio. It's, believe it or not, Kenneth, it's the largest business event in Cleveland, Ohio,
It's amazing.
which is one of the things we like to talk about because I'm such a Cleveland homer in all respects. My wife and I own the business from 2007 all the way on. We sold the business to a big media company called UBM in 2016. I stayed on until the end of 2017, and I took the entire 2018 year off to how much I call my sabbatical year, and just had a fantastic time doing things I never was able to do before. And I'm sort of now it's 2019, and I'm sort of working on some new projects and new things, which I'm sure we'll talk about some of that. But most people know me for the whole content marketing thing, but I'm an entrepreneur at heart.
Yeah, well, I heard where you had taken the year off. You got a chance to take a trip with your father to Sicily. You got to spend time with your kids. But one of the most exciting things to me, and it's part of the reason why I swim with sharks and dive underneath the water and stay there for way too long. But my understanding is for the first month, you turned off everything digital.
That is correct.
That
You
must
heard
have
right,
been
Kenneth. Yes.
amazing. I mean, after you got off the addiction to caffeine and come off a little bit. What was that month off like for somebody that's in pretty significant part of digital marketing? What was taking a month off from the world sort of like?
Well, the first thing is, what was really, really good about it now in hindsight
Yeah,
is that I made this decision in November to do this 30 days electronics internet free. And it was tough for me to start telling people, no, I can't take your call. No,
yeah,
I can't do this. I can't do that. I'm going on this thing called a sabbatical. I didn't really know what it was going to be or what it was going to look like. But going offline was great because it helped prepare me for this new start,
yeah.
or this reset, if you will, because I had to put on Facebook, this will be my last post. I had to put on Twitter and pin it.
Right.
Hey, you're not going to be seeing me here anymore. It's not that I don't love you. I'm just not going to be around for a while. Did the out of office email, set the emergency contact to my wife, all that stuff. So that was good in preparation for it. Had a big old retirement party, if you will, at the end of December with my friends. And then, Jan 1 came along, and I got to tell you, the first couple days I was pretty itchy
I
because
bet.
you have your, I look at my phone, I
Yeah,
look
you
at
got to wake
Facebook.
up and look at your phone.
If there's downtime somewhere, if you're on the subway or you're traveling or whatever, you tend to look at your phone. I couldn't do those things anymore. But after 3 or 4 days, I think that more than anything else, I just started to notice other people and other
Right.
things
Sun and
around me.
clouds and the moon. Yeah.
Exactly. It's funny because I wasn't even thinking it's almost like it changed my mindset because my wife will talk about this to our friends all the time where I would, walk down the stairs and see that the laundry needed to be flipped from the
Oh, wow.
from the washer to the dryer thing. And not that I wasn't willing to do that. I just never noticed. But I started noticing things that the dishes need to be done. I just never noticed because I was always on. Even when I was home and I wasn't working, I was always thinking about work, doing that. What's the next thing? What's the next deal? I got to check Twitter. I got to do this. And all that stopped and I slowed it down for a little bit. And I guess, Kenneth, I noticed that there were some things that I could be a better man
Yeah.
at after this time. And I'm trying to, even though in February I went back online, I've been trying to stay off much, much more. And I think I've done a pretty good job of it.
Absolutely. Well, so I am a massive fan of your books and your writing. I have read more than once, Killing Marketing that you wrote with Robert Rose, but especially Content Inc. and Epic Content Marketing. I know you've got others as well, but the references alone that you have, I think I can remember if it was Content Inc. You've got Ann Hanley, Jay Bayer, Guy Kawasaki, uh, Stratton. I mean, that's very high praise for a content marketer. Not that you guys don't all know each other, but I mean, that must have been very humbling to get that kind of praise on a lot of your books.
Well, thank you, Kenneth. I think that it's weird. The most important thing is those are my friends.
Yeah,
And it's odd to say that because in 2007, when I started really, because I was in publishing, in
sure.
2007, I moved over to marketing, didn't know any of these people. And through really the internet and social interactions and just reaching out and being helpful, became friends with Ann Hanley, became friends with Jay Baer, and was able to get Scott Stratton to speak at Content Marketing World by, sending him a note and things like that. And that's why I love the marketing, and that's why I specifically love the content marketing industry, because these people are the nicest people in the world,
Yeah,
and honestly
absolutely.
are. I mean, I mean, Ann Hanley,
Yeah,
she is just one of the nicest. Jay Bear, I was just emailing
yeah,
with Jay this morning. He just sent me a note and said, "How you doing?"
yeah,
I mean, that's that guy.
yeah.
These are real people. So when I see them go
They're
from
not talking about astrophysics. They're talking about normal everyday stuff. Jay's talking about how every hotel he goes to just sort of looks the same, and stuff like that. It's not, rocket surgery.
Well, and it's funny. It's like, well, we can't take ourselves too seriously here in,
Exactly.
in marketing because it's just marketing.
Yeah.
We're not saving anybody's life. We're not
Right.
feeding the hungry
Yeah.
here. We're just, trying to help some people enjoy their jobs a little bit more and hopefully give a little better experience to their customers.
Yeah.
That's really
Couldn't agree more.
what we're here to do. But yeah, I absolutely love this industry and for them to, put their stamp of approval on the books was, maybe they just felt that they needed to because we're friends or something like that. But I like to think that they enjoyed the book or
Yeah.
or at least read a little bit of it. So
Well, so you've written a gazillion blogs. You've spoken a million times. What sort of helps you? Writing a book takes a lot of focus and a lot of close the door, tell the kids to go away. You got to put your brain and heart and soul into it. What has sort of inspired you and captivated you to write one this many best-selling books and what's your inspiration for it?
well, thank you. The last three books that you mentioned, Epic Content Marketing, Content Inc., and Killing Marketing, were written because people, when Robert Rose and I, or whoever, when I was out speaking, we would get specific questions on: Is there a book that?
Yeah.
Is there a book that covers content marketing from A to Z, can give case studies, and something I can give my team to teach them about the art of content marketing? Well, in 2011, that really wasn't around. There were more theoretical, hey, you should do this. There was a lot of SEO. There wasn't what I wanted to create was the Bible of content marketing. That became Epic Content Marketing. And then when I'm out talking to entrepreneurs and they said, Joe, you talk about this thing about building audience first
Mm-hmm.
and then being able to create your business model around the audience. Is there a book out there for that? Well, there wasn't. So that became Content Inc.
Smart.
And that just tells the story of, creating the Content Marketing Institute. And then when we started to get questions about, Joe, you're talking about all these companies becoming media companies and really driving real revenue through these content marketing channels, through their videos and their podcasts and all the other stuff they're doing. Well, that became Killing Marketing, because it's the whole idea of we need to look at marketing differently now. And product and service companies and media companies, their model is exactly the same, and it's what we talk about in Killing Marketing. So that's, we're just that's been the entire, if there was a method to building Content Marketing Institute and doing everything that I do, it's just for the fact that, well, I didn't think it existed, and I thought it was needed because so many people. That's why Content Marketing World existed. It was just, hey, is there any place I can go and meet other content marketers and learn about it?
Hmm.
I can't find an event that does that. Well, created Content Marketing World. It's
Agreed.
just it's just listening, and that's something I learned in publishing. One of my mentors, Jim McDermott, who sort of taught me the publishing business. He said, and this is for publishing, but it's for anybody. He said, you got to go out there and set up listening posts. And I said, what are listening posts? It's like anywhere you can. You're talking to your salespeople, you're talking to your customers, you're talking to readers. You need to have your ear to the ground so you know what's going on in the industry so you
Hmm.
can solve their challenges.
Hmm.
That's it.
Yeah.
Anybody can do that in any industry. So,
Well, another aspect of your life is, as you said earlier, is being an entrepreneur. And if you would tell me about the Content Marketing Institute, what that's meant to you and your career and how it got started. I know you waited until right before the economic bubble was ready to burst, and you held the pen right to the edge and told your wife, "This is what I want to do."
well, it's so funny because I'm the type of guy that had a journal with me at all times, still do. And I would have the I'm going to start this business today thing. I would always write it down, and I would always talk about starting a business. And finally my wife said, I've been talking to her about starting a business for 10 years at this point. So this is 2006, and she said, "Look, either do it or stop talking about it because this is getting annoying." And I said, "Okay, here's what we're going to do." So this is at the end of 2006, and I said by the end of March 2007, I will have left Penton and started a business. So,
Hmm.
well, my last day at Penton Media was the end of March, April 2nd, 2007. What ultimately became Content Marketing Institute was born. That was my first blog post. It was called the blog was the Content Revolution, and my first blog post was, "What is content marketing?" Because nobody knew content marketing at
Right.
the time, so that was what we were going into, and struggled for the first couple of years. Very tough environment in 2008 and 2009. Hindsight, it was great. At the time, it was what we call the ramen noodle years. We had no money, no resources at all. Had two small kids. It was very, very tough going through that. But started doing some consulting, started a couple online, I call it online matching service for content marketing. That didn't work. And then finally I realized I wasn't doing the proper listening that I just talked about, the listening posts, and started to really look at what my blog subscribers, because I had this blog that was getting fairly popular. I said, what do they want? And it was all about, they wanted training, they wanted to meet other content marketers, and that's where the idea for Content Marketing Institute was born, as a peer training organization, if you will. It's where we brought some of the best thinkers in content marketing, had them blog, had them train, do webinars on the site. So
Sure.
Content Marketing Institute was born in May of 2010. Chief Content Officer Magazine was born January 2011, and Content Marketing World was born in September 2011. And our goal, I had it on a cocktail napkin, Kenneth. That was the goal, was to be the leader in every one of those things, and to do it by 2013, and we ended up doing it by 2012. And the business grew from, let's see, 2010 we did maybe 200,000 in total revenue, and 4 years later we were doing $10 million in revenue,
Mm.
and it was fantastic because
Yeah, I bet.
there was a moment there, Kenneth, where I was looking for a job in 2009 because I didn't think I was going to be able to make it. So it's a great story from that standpoint, because I had no idea. I mean, I believed in myself. Don't get
Sure.
me wrong, But I was seriously doubting at the end of 2009 when I started contacting my friends and say, "Hey, don't tell anybody, but I need money.
Yeah.
I got a job here."
Well, how are you driving traffic? I mean, this was really, before paid social ever started taking off. I mean, social media, what Facebook got started just a couple of years before. And, you didn't have a lot of venues to drive traffic other than one, creating content, having an email list, and some, paid search type traffic. And then all the traditional linear type TV ads and things like that, which obviously you wouldn't do.
Oh, you would love to see our analytics at the
Oh,
time
I
because
bet.
it was so we started this blog in 2007, started blogging a couple times a week. That by 2010, that was 5 times a week. It went to 7 times a week. We had a very good system. We worked with Mike Murray, good friend of mine, a great SEO guy, and we had a rolling list of 50 keywords that we looked at all the time. And if we weren't in the top 10 of some keyword around content marketing, B2B content marketing, custom media, whatever it was, we had a very specific strategy to get there and wrote a post. So we were getting 60% of our traffic coming in on these amazing searches. And what happened in 2010 was content marketing blew up. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
we'd been talking about it for 10 years, but people really started searching for it. And in 2011, the budgets opened up. So we were getting all this traffic coming in because people were searching for what is content marketing. I have no idea. And then this probably the greatest thing we ever did, and we did it too late, but in about 2009, started focus on the email newsletter list.
Mm-hmm.
And by 2011, in order to market for the event, we had about 20 or 30,000 email subscribers. Now it's over 200,000 that they have, and that did it. So
It's amazing.
between organic search and a newsletter list where you're sending out a really good newsletter to people that really want to get it, that's all we needed. It's still
It's
really all you
just
need. It's just
amazing.
harder
Yeah,
to do today, but it's
absolutely.
still really all you need.
It's just amazing that power. So then, as an entrepreneur, what are some of the lessons, not necessarily from a marketing standpoint, but just general lessons that you learned if you were to start a business today that you would not do, from what you learned 10 years ago?
Well, I started the biggest mistake, and thankfully I learned from it, but the biggest mistake that I made was going out with this. I love this product that we. It
Yeah.
was a product that I called the eHarmony for content marketing. People need content marketing. We're gonna match up agencies and journalists that can write with brands that really need it. It's gonna be fantastic. And then realize that at any one time, very few people actually need a service like that.
Mm-hmm.
And agencies never pay for anything. And I have a lot of agency friends out there, but they're the cheapest people on the planet. They don't pay for any
Yeah.
marketing services. And that was going to fund the entire effort. And I fell so in love and was so myopic about this thing succeeding that's where I got to the point, Kenneth, of it's 2009 and I'm looking for a job. This is not going to work because I just focused on that. Well, when I finally got desperate enough where I said, this is not going to work, and I actually listened to the audience and what they wanted, that's where this whole other idea of Content Marketing Institute came from. And the only thing that saved us was this ongoing blog and e-newsletter. If we didn't
Yeah.
have that, wouldn't be able to make the pivot. So the learning in all this is build an audience, focus on something which we call the content tilt in Content Inc., the book. Really focus on something that differentiates you
Mm-hmm.
and deliver consistently in one channel, whether that's a blog or a video series or podcast, whatever. Be great at something to a group of people and be that resource for when they wake up every day. That you're what they're looking for. They
Mm-hmm.
really need that from you. And then once you build an audience that's loyal and trusting to you, then you can launch products.
Agreed.
What things do they want to buy? I would still do that today. That's the exact same thing. If I'm going to start another business, I'm going to do it that exact same way. It takes a little bit longer, but you're building an asset where you don't have to pay for media long term
Sure.
because you have a subscriber list. So that was the biggest thing, and almost didn't 2.5, 3 years of focusing on this product that I fell in love with, and you just can't do that. You can't. It's not about. I'm passionate about being an entrepreneur, Am I passionate about content marketing? Sure. I mean, I love content marketing, but if there was an opportunity somewhere else and I saw that around a certain group of people, I would go do that
Mm-hmm.
if that's what I want to do. I'm just passionate about starting things. So, don't fall in love with the product or service you have. If you're going to fall in love with anything, fall in love with your audience.
Sure. Well, you're obviously known as an authority figure in content marketing. I know that your reference is the Godfather of content marketing, but you also, on top of this of the Content Marketing Institute, you help launch Content Marketing World, which is enough of you know it's enough of an event on its own to keep you busy. What inspired you to help launch that? I mean, you said yourself listening to your customers, but I mean now you've got 4,000 people that go to this conference you started. That's a lot.
Well,
That's a full-time gig year round.
it is. We start. I mean, we probably. I mean, historically, we'd started on the next year's event before we even launched this year's
Yeah.
event. So in 2000, for the 2016 event, we were working way before we even did the 2015 event. A lot of people don't realize that. So it is about a 12 to 15 month affair if you're going to do it properly, if it's going to be the best event ever. And you've been to it. We were
Yeah.
talking before the show about all the events that you go to. There are so many just average events. We just
100%.
tried to create, and I've spoken at enough events. I've been to events all around the world where I would take notes on this is what this event does good, and this is what event did not do very good, and just tried to create this amazing experience for people because really what they want to have a good time. They want to network and meet other people, and then way down the line is learning. Now, don't get me wrong. We focused on having the best speakers and the best topics in the world, but that's not the most important thing at an event. People really want to connect with other people at a physical event. And the other thing, just from a business model standpoint, it's a great cash flow business. I mean, just put the other stuff aside for people listening to this, because a lot of people are surprised when they say, "Oh, how do you even afford to put this event on?" And I said, "Do you not know how profitable an event can be?"
Exactly.
An event is if you look at media companies today, where are they going? They're creating events now. New York Times is trying to be in the event business because it's so profitable if you do it correctly. And people pay, you get almost 100% of the revenues up front. So when I go back, go back to 2010 when I told you I was really struggling with the business and
Mm-hmm.
had no money. We launched it. I had to the only reason we were able to say, hey, we're content marketing world and start investing and go get Kevin Smith and pay a lot of money to have him keynote and
Right.
all that stuff is because we got all the money up front.
Yeah.
If we wouldn't have had the money up front, we wouldn't have been able to afford to do any of those things. So yeah, I mean, I absolutely love the event business. I probably someday I would launch an event in some other area just because I love it so much, and my wife and I love putting on parties, and it's just there's a lot of people doing events, and not a lot of people focusing on the right things about the customer experience, the attendee experience when
Absolutely.
they're there,
Yeah.
and that's where the opportunity is because there's just way too many bad events out there.
Well, by the way, I am 100% with you on putting on one of those events. I was literally thinking of this yesterday. I would love to put on an event and put it on in what I think is the right way. There are others that do it the right way, but I would love to do it. But anyway,
Well, you could do that because you have the podcast.
yeah.
You've had a lot of guests. You know who the good ones are. You know who the bad ones are. You have a relationship there already.
Hmm.
So that was going back to the event and how we started it and how it was made it easier than it could have been is because all from 2007 to 11, I was asking people to contribute to the site for a blog post.
Yeah.
And all these really smart people, Jay Bears of the world, the Andrew Davis of the world, were creating content, or we'd have them on webinars and get them involved in what we were doing in some way. So that when I reached out to them, and they would, cut their fee quite a bit for us because we were friends and we helped each other out along the way and all that kind of stuff. And we were able to get the best first year, the best of the best speakers from around the world to this little podunk event that nobody knew about in Cleveland, Ohio.
Exactly.
So that's where an event doesn't just happen. And that event was 4 years in the making because everything we did at Content Marketing Institute was getting the community involved and not just saying, "Oh, Joe knows content marketing. It's all about Joe."
Hmm.
Content Marketing Institute was very, very little about Joe Pulizzi.
Yeah.
It was about the really smart people in the community and lifting them up and giving them a platform.
I think it's amazing that we're in an online digital world, yet something that people flock to in droves is to physically be at what is basically offline at a conference, and it is one of the best experiences in the world. And it's, I'm a big fan of conferences and getting to meet the people and interacting and learning face to face. It's just it's a totally different experience. But
Well, it's funny just to tell you a little side story, but in the mid 2000s, when all this internet social media was being born, because Pet Media had a very large event division. We did a ton of events in a ton of different industries, and I was a part of many meetings that said, "What do we do when the physical event goes away
yeah,
and there's only virtual events?" That was a real conversation. Like we weren't just you don't think about it today because we've gone through that period and physical events are as strong as they have ever been. But at the
exactly.
time we were scared. We're like, oh, the whole business model is going under. What do we do? But it's human nature. Humans want to meet other human beings. Human contact. It's all that's never going to go away, in my opinion.
Agreed. Just promise to never move it from Cleveland, Ohio to Vegas. There are enough conferences in
There are enough
Vegas.
conferences in Vegas. Although I don't have the say in where content marketing world is anymore, I certainly hope they keep it in Cleveland. And I
No
think
kidding.
part of the personality of that event is having it in a city like Cleveland. And I always liked it too because if you put we've done events in Vegas as well. And the problem with Vegas, I love Vegas by the way, but the problem with having events in Vegas is you never know if people are going to go to the event. There's a
Exactly.
lot of other stuff to do. Well, the good news about Cleveland, Ohio is you if you're gonna go, maybe you're gonna go to a craft brewery or something, go to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, but we take you to that anyways. You're gonna go to the event because you're in Cleveland. So I just love that part of the whole thing. We made a joke about it too many years. Like, what else are you gonna do? You're
Yeah,
here in Cleveland. You're already here, so might as well come to all those sessions.
exactly. Well,
So
you lost LeBron, but you can't lose content marketing world.
that's
So
that's exactly right.
so let's dive into the books then and talk about one of my favorite subjects, but it's the monetization of our content. And, in Killing Marketing in particular, you talk about how it can't be just about the content. Can you elaborate a little bit about what you meant by that phrase and how we start to monetize this content? Because I think for a lot of entrepreneurs, just like yourself, they may not necessarily have the patience to look at just having good content and a decent email list and think they're going to be able to build that out. But that's obviously changed because a lot of entrepreneurs now are solopreneurs trying to build it out themselves and their own platforms and monetize themselves.
Well, it what we're trying to talk about in Killing Marketing is when anybody creates a piece of content to at least understand the business model around what they're doing. And that's what I found out when we talk to anybody who creates content. And this is across the board in every industry. Create a piece of a blog, podcast, webinar series. Oh, I want to do videos. I
Yeah,
want to do social stuff. They want to create all this content, but all we're asking them to do is just step back for a second and look at what they're trying to do from a model standpoint and then ultimately financial. Because why are you doing this? Are you just doing it
exactly.
for a hobby? If you're doing it for a hobby, then fine. Then we don't have to have this conversation. But if you're doing this for your company as a marketing activity or you're doing it as an entrepreneur, then you better be really well aware of what you need to do, build this audience, and how you're going to build this and how ultimately you're going to monetize it. So that's what we go through in Killing Marketing, where there's basically 5 direct ways to generate revenue and 5 indirect ways. So there's 10 total ways to generate revenue off of content. Historically, it's just been a couple different ways, sponsorship and subscriptions for the most part that media companies have been doing. Well,
Hmm.
how do the New York Times make their money? Well, they make their money through people paying for subscription or through advertising that is spent to reach that audience. That's it,
Yeah.
historically. But then if you go on and you look at all these things that are happening and how organizations are monetizing it, they could be creating better customers. They could be creating higher, people that receive a magazine maybe spend more money, or they buy different products and services. That's
Mm-hmm.
fantastic. Or maybe John Deere, who's had a magazine, they're the largest media company in the farming agriculture industry. They've got
Exactly.
millions of subscribers. Well, how do they monetize that? Well, people buy more John Deeres. People that get that magazine buy more John Deere's. That's why they've been doing it for 120 years. But could they also sell advertising in it? Sure, they could if they wanted to.
Yeah.
So, but just understanding the options available for once you build a loyal audience around a very specific thing, then the opportunities open up for all these different things. And what Robert and I talk about in the book, and what we ultimately come to realize is, if you are a chief marketing officer in any Fortune whatever company, or any small company for that matter, or you are a media executive, the model is exactly the same. And people don't realize that. And it's just funny to see how this thing is happening and building out, where you look at, the business model when it comes to content creation for Netflix and Apple aren't too dissimilar than it is for Cisco Systems or IBM. We just treat it, we perceive it as differently. But the business model itself is the same, and what they do with it is their decision. But it's just funny to see that happen. And I just wish, the problem right now is people don't understand that it's happening right in front of them, especially marketers, which the book was targeted to.
100%.
They don't understand it happening. It's happening right in front of them.
Well, and as you reference, I've heard you reference this before. I mean, everybody basically has the capability to be a publisher, and if they start looking at themselves as their own media company, then they can really it accelerates a lot of their thinking quickly. And one of my favorite examples you referenced in the book is The Onion and how they monetize. I've worked with them. If you look at how they started off with just silly posts, they've now got a Facebook channel that has something like 6 million followers. They did an offshoot, created the Onion Labs, the creative arm that now creates TV commercials, and they work with a lot of major brands. And it's just amazing that they took this silly, funny pieces of content, built a publishing channel around it, and
Yeah.
now make millions of dollars for, I think, what is owned by now a parent company. But it's amazing how they've taken that to an extreme, and anybody can do it.
Well, the one thing I love about that, and BuzzFeed and some of the other ones on the media side, and this is where marketers don't get this, because when you talk to a marketer about content marketing, they've got 18 ideas. I want to launch the podcast. I
Yeah.
want to do the
Oh
video.
yeah.
I want to do 87 things. What you don't realize about success stories like The Onion, like BuzzFeed and John Deere, if you will, really, really amazing success stories, is they started focusing on one audience, focusing on one key content type in one channel. So basically, The Onion was a blog or a publishing site, and they were focused on getting e-newsletter subscribers. BuzzFeed did the same exact thing. John Deere did it through a magazine. So what we really try to talk about is do one thing really well to start, and then you can diversify, like you just talked about. And then you can monetize all kinds of different ways.
Exactly.
But build one thing really, really well for one specific audience instead of trying to boil the ocean. Never going to work. So that's when we go in, when Robert and I went into our millions of consulting engagements that we'd go into. Usually, our recommendation at the end of the engagement was for them to stop creating so much content, or to take some of those resources and focusing on being great in one area, instead of doing, oh, we're doing this LinkedIn thing, and we're doing this thing on Twitter, we got this Facebook thing, and this podcast, and we've got a weekly newsletter that we only get out every other week or something. Those types of things. It's just, when you're competing against everybody else, every other company in the world, including Google and Amazon and Apple, you've got to be great and exceptional to that specific audience, and you can't just be mediocre.
Well, what are some of the other challenges that you see ahead in content marketing, other than, to what you just said, too much content?
Well, I don't know if it's a challenge, but the thing that we are starting to see in Drove now is the purchasing of media companies by non-media entities.
Right.
I just covered the one BlackBerry Pi, which is they create hardware. My son has it. It's a little piece of hardware. It's like a little mini computer. They just bought two computer magazines, and I didn't even realize it at the time. And I looked at them like, okay, so this is a hardware company. That's the product they sell. BlackBerry Pi. Is it no? Is it black? Is it Raspberry Pi? I can't remember the name of it.
I can't
Maybe
either.
it's Raspberry. Raspberry. I
Raspberry
think it's
Pi.
Raspberry Pi. It's so funny because I'm like some kind of pie. So, anyways,
Berry Berry Pie.
this company is now a multi-million
Yeah.
dollar publisher of 6 or 7 magazines. I had no idea. They started with their own magazine, and it really, really took off. And now they start buying other. So I think I wish more product and service companies would realize that if they don't want to go through all the pain and effort, they actually could go out and buy a property and sort of shortcut the system. And I think there's a huge opportunity there.
So as content marketing continues to evolve and the space becomes even more crowded, do you see the value of content marketing helping a large corporation more or less than what an individual solopreneur or small business can do, because it's so easy to quickly build out content as an individual,
Yeah.
and there's so many different hurdles. But if you've got a large brand name, whoever it is, can they get the same kind of scale, in your opinion, to leveraging content that we can so quickly do when we're smaller?
It's a great question. I've got a couple takes on it. First of all, I believe that if you are going to become an entrepreneur today, the best way to do it is through a content marketing approach,
Yeah.
or what we talk about in Content Inc. They just follow that model.
Mm-hmm.
And as long as you're patient, it takes a lot of patience, but if you give it 12 to 18 months, you can be extremely successful with that model. Now, theoretically, larger companies should have an easier time because they have
Exactly.
more money and more resources. The problem is that the biggest challenge to content marketing has nothing to do with resources. It's just change. It's different. Content marketing is not buying ads. It's not interrupting another audience. It's new and it's different, and you know it's almost like the thing where you never get fired for hiring IBM, that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you never get really fired for buying a Super Bowl ad, do you? I mean, unless you were pets.com back in the day.
Exactly.
You're just content marketing approach takes more time, resources, it takes more focus. You have to have a champion in the organization battling against somebody all the time. Now, if you get an organization that gets it and really believes in the ideas behind content marketing, you end up with a company like Amazon.
Exactly.
And nobody wants to talk about Amazon being a content marketing company, but they the whole thing about Prime kills me. Prime Video was a whole content marketing initiative for Prime.
Mm-hmm.
And look what that's become.
Yeah.
$1 billion platform for them. So it's those types of things that if you have an executive behind it that gets it, great. But it's absolutely all about changing, and you just have to have somebody with courage in a marketing position that can just push it through and push it through, like our friends at Aero Electronics. They're the largest media company in the business electronics engineering industry. They have 51, I think 52 different brands. They have all types of media properties. They're by far the largest audience groups of any other media company. But a lot of people don't talk about that because they distribute electronics equipment. But they are.
Yeah.
And it's those types of things that are happening, and we don't even realize it. So that's the issue. It's just much easier when you're a small company because you have less hurdles and cultural issues to go through.
So let's quickly talk about something that I know you've got a passion for, and it's what you're spending time on now post sabbatical. But it's the Orange Effect Foundation. Why was there a need to create that, and what has that sort of meant to you, and who are you trying to help?
Oh, bless you for asking about
Absolutely.
that. So my son Joshua, our oldest son, was born on the spectrum.
Yeah.
He's today he's fantastic, but when he was 3 years old, he could say just a couple words. It's very tough to communicate. And we were trying to figure out as parents, what do you do about that? And we were able to get him very fairly aggressive speech therapy and play therapy services. And now he's a junior in high school, regular high school. You'd never even know. You'd think he's just a quirky teenager.
Mm-hmm.
He's doing fantastic. But what benefited him was having this ongoing speech and play therapy. And if he didn't get that at that particular moment, I have no idea where he would be right now with his communication skills. So we found out was that a lot of families can't afford this, and insurance doesn't cover it in a lot of cases, speech therapy. So we created the Orange Effect Foundation to help families who have mostly children ages, let's say 2 to 11. A lot of them are on the autism spectrum, apraxia, other issues, other developmental issues that they have, but they really need speech therapy and they can't afford it.
Yeah.
Orange Effect Foundation, we step in we have private and corporate donations, and we take that money and we deliver it directly to the provider of the speech services for that family, so that family can get the speech therapy for that child that they need instead of going without. And so right now we have grants going out to 127 children in 28 states, and we need more funding. We need more support. There's just so much need out there, especially with insurance these days not covering a lot of stuff. So that's what we're doing, and we've been around. We've been around for about 13 years doing this thing, but officially as a 501c3 since 2014, and just trying to make an impact. And it does make an impact when you see some of these kids and how they progress.
Oh, absolutely.
Just through 1 or 2 sessions a week. It's unbelievable.
Yeah. Well, Joe, it is now that special time in the show. Are you ready for the 5 most important and interesting questions that you're going to be asked today?
Oh my gosh, yes, absolutely.
All right, here we go.
Yes.
Number 1, Content Marketing Institute or Content Marketing World?
Oh, it's
Got Sophie's Choice 5
you
times.
Can't pick. Okay. The thing we're most known for is Content Marketing World, but I'd pick Content Marketing Institute because there wouldn't be a Content Marketing World without the Institute.
Fair.
So we'll do that. Yeah.
Number 2, Entrepreneur or Author?
Oh, Entrepreneur.
All right. Number 3, Baker Mayfield or Jim Brown? Hall of Famer Jim Brown.
How can you even? That's an impossible question.
It is.
God, did I have to choose? Well, it's Baker Mania right now, so I'm
Exactly.
gonna say Baker Mayfield just because we haven't been in this position as Cleveland Browns fans in a while.
Yeah, since Jim Brown.
Yeah, since Jim Brown. That's right.
Yeah. Well, for millennials, they're going to say, "Who's Jim Brown?" So.
Thanks. Oh God, that's scary.
So, number 4, the weather in Sicily, where you just spent some time with your dad, or the weather, including winter, in Cleveland.
Oh, the weather in Sicily.
Yeah,
hands down.
absolutely.
As cold as it only gets to be about 40 degrees in Sicily at its worst time. And Cleveland, Ohio. Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
So we've got all kinds of rain and snow and stuff coming down. It's just not pleasant.
Well, number 5, and the most important content marketing question that you're going to be asked today is biscuits or cornbread?
Cornbread.
All right. So, Joe.
I love cornbread.
Good man.
Can't get enough of it.
So these are the important questions you didn't think you were going to be asked. So
glad you asked it.
Absolutely. So, Joe, where can people find out more about you, read your blog, follow your thought leadership, see you speak, and more?
So go to at joepulizzi.com is where you can see all the books, all the speaking engagements. You can subscribe to my newsletter, which I'm starting, all that kind of stuff. That's just the easiest thing. If you're looking for a little social media, probably best at Joe Pulizzi, Pulizzi on Twitter.
And if they want to get involved, where do they go to find the Orange Effect Foundation?
Thank you. It's theorangeeffect.org, or just type in Orange Effect Foundation into Google. We're always looking any support, donations, spreading the word. That's all helpful. I mean, really, what I do full time. Yeah. What I do full time is just try to fundraise as much as possible for
Absolutely.
So
it matters so much more in the greater scheme. Well,
absolutely.
Thank you so much, Joe, for being with us today on A Shark's Perspective.
Thanks, Kenneth. Have fun.
Awesome. So there was my conversation with Joe Pulizzi, an entrepreneur and the founder of the Content Marketing Institute, the Content Marketing World Conference, the Orange Effect Foundation, a best-selling author, keynote speaker, and a true subject matter expert on content marketing. Let's take a look at 3 key takeaways from my conversation with him. First, as Joe said, he's an entrepreneur at heart. He's proven that with the right kind of content strategy, you can build a business. Looking back, though, he said that the biggest mistake he made was running out with, "I love this product." The mistake was that he didn't listen to his customers, and it's a great lesson for any marketer. You may have a good product or service, but marketing needs to build an audience. Focus on the content tilt, as he describes, and find something that differentiates you. Deliver consistently on one channel, whether it's a blog, video, podcast, or whatever. And I quote, "Be great at something to a group of people and be that resource when they wake up every day." You're what they're looking for. They really need that from you. And once you build an audience that's loyal and trusting to you, then you can launch products. What things do they want to buy? It takes longer, but that's how he would do it. And as he goes on to say, don't fall in love with the product or service that you have. Fall in love with your audience. What a wonderful point. Second, there are so many average events. Content Marketing World, though, is a great show and an amazing experience. It's not just about the speakers. People want to have a good time and network with other people, and then they want to learn. So if you want to talk, think, and learn about content marketing, it's a great place to go. Third, so you want to push content marketing where you are? As he said, a content marketing approach takes more time and resources. It takes more focus. You have to have a champion in your organization battling against somebody all the time. Now, if you get an organization that gets it and really believes in the idea behind content marketing, then you get a company like Amazon. I've been in that same position, and I agree with Joe. And a rare fourth, marketing schmarketing. None of this in the grander scheme matters that much. What matters more in life are people who need help, like the organization that Joe founded and is focused on with the Orange Effect Foundation. He opened up about how his own child was born on the spectrum and needed help to communicate. This foundation helps make sure children with speech disorders receive the speech therapy and technology that they need. Any support is needed and helpful. Go to theorangeeffect.org to give or get more information. Got a question? Send me an email to kenneth@asharksperspective.com. Thank you for taking the time to listen to this show to discuss another one of the many components that makes up marketing today. So go out there and produce some amazing content and fall in love with your audience so that they fall in love with you. And join us on the next episode of A Shark's Perspective.